The WWE. I'm not really going to talk about the product. I grew up watching wrestling during the Ruthless Aggression era, and when I reached the point I stopped liking the product, I stopped watching. Which, thank God, if you talk to wrestling fans, they're sticking to something they hate because they remember the good times. It's practically a domestic relationship. Nah, I always loved the video games though. WWE games have taken a nosedive in recent years, but for a solid while they were pumping out some good fun games. It all peaked with WWE 2K14, the best WWE game. The roster was phenomenal, covering wrestlers from a bunch of different eras, and the gameplay was the best of any previous game. It had that perfect blend of being a simulation yet feeling archaic, which was also welcoming to non-fans. I've had people come to my house and I'd make them play it, which at first they weren't interested in, but one ladder match later they started making their own characters and the nights would go on. The next game I played would be 2K16, which was a massive shift. The game felt much slower as they started moving more and more towards simulation style games and did some gameplay decisions that I'm not a fan of, but I'll get into that in a bit. Regardless, I wasn't too interested in the game, so I barely played it. Years went on, WWE games just kinda existed as yearly releases like any other sports hall, which is a bit lame with these 2K titles. Back in the day we had cool names for games like SmackDown vs. Raw, No Mercy, Here Comes the Pain, or when the game tells me to kindly shut the fuck up. Anyway, it all fell apart with 2K20. A disaster of a game. The game had some decent hype around it, but you see where other games had hype but faded into darkness after release, this game was released and got fucking hammered. Remember how one time I said that Friday the 13th the game was held together by band-aids? Well, this game's band-aids are held together by band-aids. It's such a buggy mess, the game didn't work, was almost unplayable. You wanna know what it looks like for a game to be vomiting? Well, this is it. Not only did the game just not work, but 2K offered a deluxe version of the game that would come with autographed paraphernalia from a wrestler, and when people got it by paying a ridiculous amount, they didn't get it! It was such an atrocious f*** up that wrestlers themselves went out of their way to try to fix it. The game was such a mess that again any plans for 2K21 can. Next year they released WWE 2K Battlegrounds, which went the complete arcade direction in terms of gameplay. I do own this game, PlayStation Plus gave it away for free a few months ago, but it never really interested me because damn it, I just want a perfect middle again. Can I just get a sequel to 2K14 called 2K14 2? Anyway, at the time of this video is released, 2K22 should be out, but I'm making this video in February, so this is what I'm doing.
Long interest aside, yes, I'm playing 2K20 because a while back at a used video game store, I picked this game up for $2, and any game that costs less than the amount due is getting a purchase, damn it.
Let's jump into the gameplay real quick. The controls for wrestling games aren't simple. I mean, the controls for 2K14 were as follows: punch, grab, throw, special, reverse, interact, target, move, run, taunt, running punch, running grab, hold for submission.
Did you get all that?
It definitely was a learning curve, but once you mastered it, it felt great. I did, I put it on my resume. So I was baffled once I saw that 2K20 had changed some of the buttons. They moved the reverse button here and made the button to use special moves 2 buttons, which sometimes didn't work. I have a finisher, I'm pressing the buttons, but the game isn't letting me do anything. I guess now I can finally talk about this simulation gameplay that I hate. Well, there are 3 things I despise about the new wrestling games. First things first, reversals. The games have added a limited amount of reversals a wrestler has and can use. I understand that this is to prevent players who have mastered timing their reversals from abusing others. I mean, sure, it makes things somewhat fair, but then what happens is this. Opponent has the advantage and starts beating me up. I decide to pull a reverse and try to turn the tables, but that risks 2 things happening. Either they just pull an Uno reverse card back at you, or the game becomes dog shit and doesn't let my counterattacks connect, leading to the opponent to resume their onslaught without having to waste a reversal. And God forbid you run out of reversals, now you're just gonna have to sit there and take this beating and wait for your reversal to regenerate. This is boring, which leads to my second complaint. The game feels much slower. The game really leans into stamina, which means you need to have a certain amount of energy to do things like climb the top rope or perform your finisher. It really gets obnoxious when the characters start just writhing around in pain and slowly getting to their feet. This doesn't feel intense. I'm bored and angry, mashing all the buttons, hoping I accidentally press the get up faster f***head button. Perfect way to put it into perspective is when you pin someone. See, in this game when you get pinned and kick out, your character just kinda lays there or sits up, allowing the opponent to continue to dish out punishment. But see, going back to the sliced bread of this franchise, when you kicked out in that game, you immediately get back up, which in theory is kinda stupid. You just ate a finishing move and got right back up.
In wrestling terminology, they call that burying.
But it keeps the action fast-paced and the match doesn't have to suffer of watching the models roll around. This game suffers from that, and last thing is pinning. See, on the other side of the coin of pinning and kicking out is something even more insufferable. See, sometimes the game will have my character do this stupid bullshit garbage showboating to the crowd of, what? How did he kick out? I hit him with the thing! It wouldn't be awful if it wasn't for the fact that the opponent you were just pinning has the time to fully recover, grab a drink, grab a snack, get a phone call from the spouse that they're in labor, leave the arena, drive to the hospital, watch the birth of their child, drive back to the arena, stop by a drive-thru for good measure, make their entrance, and then take the offensive while my character still hasn't finished! I hate this so much that when I see it happen, I just want to stop playing. Other than all that garbage, I didn't really run into any bugs or glitches. I don't know if that's because there's been patches to solve the basic issues, or if it's because I didn't dive deep enough into the game to find them. Visually, I have no idea what to say. I honestly can't tell you if I like how the game looks or hate it. Some models look good, some don't. Some I just don't know. Now there are two game modes to jump into here. The first is the 2K Showcase. Now women's wrestling used to look like this, now it looks like this. How did we get here? Well, the Showcase is the explanation, as it covers the women who changed women's wrestling from bras and panties matches to actual respectable matches that rival the men's. Charlotte, Becky, Bayley, and Sasha are the culprits, branded as the 4 horsewomen, and the Showcase covers their journey from the developmental brand to the main event. It has you relive and recreate famous matches, and your mission is to accomplish certain goals or pull off certain moves that trigger cutscenes within the match. While I do like the cutscenes, I do still feel like they pop up way too frequently and go on for way too long, but I really do like playing the 2K Showcase. It's a really cool way to learn wrestling history without actually having to watch the product. Especially 2K14, which had 30 years of WrestleMania mode that made you play iconic matches from each of the first 29 WrestleManias. It's actually pretty cool. Because of this mode, I now know the main events of the first 29 WrestleManias. Add that to my resume too. Thing is, even though I like it, I couldn't really progress here as the game continues to get in its own way. During the second match, which was a fatal 4-way between the horsewomen, I was given a task to perform a hair pull slam. Okay, how though? The game's not telling me. When I had to dig for it in the menu, the move just wasn't happening for me. Sasha would be pulling other moves until I lose, and it kept happening until I said, F it. Time to jump into the career mode. First thing you do is customize your character.
You know, I'm surprised I haven't talked about customization yet.
Wrestling games are insanely filled with customization. Not only can you customize your own wrestlers, but you can also customize entrances, arenas, championship belts, tag teams, shows, rivalries. It's nuts how much the game lets you create, and you'll be left surprised of how much time of yours it kills. Wrestling is stupid, and I'm not saying that as an insult. These games let me have a McDonald's employee, a doctor, and a gorilla in a triple threat steel cage match. Does Mario Galaxy let you do that? I didn't spend any time customizing much in 2K20 because I knew it'd be a waste of time. I'm not committed to this game. For the best though, 2K14 was giving me the stink eye. Anyway, I'm kinda shocked that when I was making character for my career mode, it was actually pretty limiting on what it let you do. Which is kinda a bit whack really. Now George the Wrestler has to wear this monstrosity. Oh wait, the game also has me make a female wrestler. I made what I perceived I would look like as a woman, so here we are. My name is Georgina. The story tells of George and Georgina getting ready to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, so that means we are about to have some flashbacks. The first one takes us back to high school, where we are getting bullied by our fellow students, which takes us to a fantasy where we fight the bully on Raw. From there, George and Georgina decide to drop school and pursue their wrestling dreams and gotta work their way up from shady basements to the big scene. See, it would be a decent story if it wasn't for how god-awful this game is. First things first, the cutscenes are just dreadful. Not only do they look bad, I mean look at these sets, it looks like they were made in Gary's mod in 2004. The voice acting is god-awful, but the game tries to be humorous, but it ends up being so cheesy. Plus, the loading times are abysmal here. It'd go cutscene, loading screen, hub, loading screen, cutscene, loading screen, match, loading screen, cutscene, hub. Guess what happens next? It's so obnoxious how often things pop up. It made Sonic 06 look good. And saying that gave me the need to brush my teeth. I'll admit that the mode managed to get one nose exhale out of me for how stupid it was, but damn it, when I reached the level of cringe that had my mouth bleed, I had to get out of there. So far, this game really is a disaster. I tried to somewhat fix it by going into the menu and completely messing around with the settings by making things archaic and turning off limited reversals. It did improve the gameplay a little. Don't get me wrong, it's still not that much better. It's like having to dig through shit but pinching your nose. With the new settings, I tried to tackle the two game modes again. With the Showcase, I did manage to finally do the hair pull slam but lost for another reason, but that must have been a fluke because when I tried to replicate it, it just wouldn't happen. And when it came to the career mode, yeah, it was actually somewhat more tolerable to play through. But once I saw a cutscene where George was actually setting up a joke, I ganked the power cord from the PS4. So, WWE 2K20. Yeah, it sucks. It's a real shame how the WWE games went. It used to be such a fun franchise that was welcoming to non-fans, but now these recent games seem to alienate them.
I'm not really interested in any future 2K games because I still have 14. But the day comes and my 360 dies, I might actually have to move on. Who am I kidding? If this thing dies, just buy another one on eBay. Yes, 2K14 is so good that I'd rather pay for a whole new 360 than play any of the new WWE games. Let that tell you something.